Yay. Okay, so we are live right now,
Hello.
coming
Hi.
to you from Noble Sky International. I am Farhan, and with me is my mentor and friend, Rauf Said.
Mentor, not mentor. Just colleague,
Yeah.
co-worker.
All right, so today is Monday, right? So we've been doing Monday nights. I think it's a good time to wind down on a Monday night. People are ready. Some people, I think, I was on the road today,
Mm.
and the road was very congested. I think people are already back to their offices.
Yep,
Um,
correct.
so yeah, Monday night is, I think, it's a good night to just chill, listen into some areas or some things that we want to share in terms of US real estate and real estate in general. I think for those who have been following us, we have been sharing quite a bit, not just on US per se. Of course, obviously, we Noble Sky International, we do a lot on US real estate, but we also talk about real estate in general, because as a bigger picture, I think we always tell people like, hey, look, real estate is a good place to buy. But tonight is a very interesting topic, because we want to show cases where it's not always the case that you're going to make money in real estate. Correct, Ralph?
That's right. Correct. So
Yeah.
we've been monitoring the market for quite a fair bit, and locally and in the US especially. And in Singapore, as a Singaporean, we've always been under the presumption that property in Singapore is like a safe haven. It will never go wrong.
Yep.
Probably property in the HDB segment might not go wrong, but when you enter into the private domain, the private property domain, that's when you might be in a world of hurt if you have no idea what you're doing.
Sounds painful. Okay. Before
Correct.
before we get there, so basically you're saying that there are possibilities that actually you might not necessarily make money in real estate.
I agree. Correct. That's
Right.
in fact, in a highly developed market like Singapore, it is quite tough. I can share the challenge of in developed market like Singapore, like the US, compared to a developing market like
Uh-huh.
Malaysia, India. So there's different challenges in different countries.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, I actually remember the days when my parents, like starting out from 30 years ago. In fact, I was
To
just
the days.
listening to my, yeah, we were talking about, I was talking to my wife about, properties then and now. I think I remember my parents, I think my parents bought, they didn't buy many properties, but they bought properties and shifted, upgraded, right? So sort of
Hmm.
like upgraded and bought different properties. And from what I heard, it's like it has always been a profitable move. But I think that was the case 30, 20 years ago, because then the market, I was like you mentioned, right? We were still a developing economy.
Hmm.
The opportunities for growth are still there.
Yep.
And right now, becoming a homeowner myself, being married and buying my own home and all, then I realized that, yeah, this whole idea about buying a property will necessarily be my investment or an asset might not necessarily be the case.
Correct.
So I think it's something, it's a cause for concern for some, those especially who are thinking into buying into properties, and whether it's their first home or not. I think it makes a lot of difference, what type of properties they buy in, and maybe, yeah, we're looking forward to having you share what are some of the scenarios, like, people have actually got themselves maybe into a little bit of trouble. Yeah.
Okay, so in what I've seen, if you are generally speaking, for people who's just about to start, all right, and you have you just got married, you have a good job, you have income, and at the same time you're looking at settling in a place other than living with your parents. So you want to find a place to stay, correct? And most of the time, most of us look at, well, in Singapore, we look at housing development boards, right? The
Mhm.
properties from HDB, BTO, DBSS, whatever. I'm not sure what else we call it. Those are naturally the place that we first go to find place to live in. Now, in Singapore, especially government housing like such as this, can cost a lot of money. But the
Mhm.
benefit of us is that we have the advantage of using our own CPF national savings to help us alleviate the cost of buying the property. We get government grants. We were able to buy them at a relatively low interest rate because we are able to use loans from HDB. But sometimes I do understand loan from the bank is a lot lower, but then there's different criteria. However, in that sense, I always throw caution to the wind when people think HDB as an investment. It can be as an investment because it's but it is futile to think that you are a good or you are a property investor just by buying a HDB flat. You're not exactly okay. It is one of the advantage and benefit of being a Singaporean, that you're able to buy a HDB flat to hopefully, and then it's like an automatic play, right? The moment you buy HDB flat, and then you have appreciation 5 years down the road, and then you upgrade into a condo, you upgrade into what else you upgrade to? Landed, upgrade to something else, a castle, I don't know what you can buy. But that's naturally the growth trend. If you have a good job and you keep upgrading yourself, you have income, and then your husband and wife work, and then you put your kids to work, you get them to
contribute back.
Contribute back to you, right? Okay. So my point is this: it is an advantage for us as a Singaporean. If you're watching this as a Singaporean, we have these properties that we in Singapore that is highly protected from external market conditions, and whatever we buy in HDB will always see an automatic appreciation 5 years down the road. When after MOP is over, you can sell, you make a profit. It's like almost brainless. It's something you don't have much thought to do. 99% of the time, my understanding is that buying this kind of properties makes money for you. And the natural trend is to upgrade bigger. Well, the thing is, when we look at buying property from the private market, now we're talking about condominiums. And if you intend, this is where I always like to differ. This is your own stay, your own place for your family. There's an emotional component to that property. Okay, so nothing, no matter what, even if it's a loss-making property, in what sense, okay, it can still be mitigated because you put emotions into buying that property.
Maybe you like the place.
You like the place. You like to live there, and then you only own it. Maybe it is a 99 years property, right? And then you buy it at the last 20 years of its lease, but it's right behind the beach, for example. And then you like that life, and then you just buy it, and then you don't care, right? Because an emotional component involved. However, if it's a property investment, then that's a foolish buy, okay? Because you only own it for the next 20 years, and unlikely for if there's no master plan to regrow the area or whatsoever, and then you technically you have just paid off your money to the government for nothing. It's a lease. And there's a lot of properties in Singapore. However, I'm talking to one extreme, right? In Singapore, there's several private properties. If you look at HProp, a magazine, a property magazine, and we have some articles that you've already seen, Farhan, that was indicating some of the properties that were loss making. And sometimes Singaporeans who are so we're in our own shell, right? We're in our own shell, and we don't realize that buying property in Singapore can make you lose money as well, and that's something to take note of. Is it?
Okay. Yeah, I've heard this in fact a few years back when Singapore bought residential properties in Sentosa Cove, and there was a big news then, I think a few years back, about how someone I think bought at 20 million and it was only able to sell off at like 7 million or something like that. And that was just that was just scary. And I think the reality started to set in that buying into a property, while most people think that it's surely gonna make money down the road, it not necessarily be the case depending on where and how you come in. So you want to share with us a little bit more?
Just share the screen. That particular thing that you talk about. That
you have it.
Article has got the lost decade of Sentosa Cove. So I'm from HProp, right? And this was back in 2018, so it's quite some time back, about almost 2 years ago. At that point in time, Sentosa Cove has lost its shine. And there were a lot of billionaires that actually made mistakes buying properties overpriced in Sentosa Cove. And the issue is because if people were to buy property, the natural thing to think of is this: you only make money in a couple of ways, mainly two. One is through appreciation. Second is through cash flow, rental income. And the higher the property value, the lower your income yield, which is everywhere in the world. The more expensive the property is, unlikely for you to be able to earn money from rental income. You won't be able to. If you are buying property in a highly valuable area, like example in the US where we are familiar with, right, Fine, is like San Francisco, okay, San Jose. These are crazy places, New York City, Manhattan areas. These are you need a different strategy, a lot of very deep pockets to play in those kind of area, and you're speculating on some level. So when you buy those properties that are highly expensive, you're only hoping for appreciation. And
Yes.
in a very developed country, in very developed market, Singapore being one of them, betting on appreciation can be deadly. I don't know another word. Can cause you to lose money. So if you look at this, right, back all the way there was like about, as of 2018, 46% loss-making transactions in the entire Sentosa Cove. 46%
Wow,
transactions.
46%.
Yeah, that was back then in 2018. I'm not so sure about now. Okay, but you will also, if you read the entire article, there were a lot of millionaires and billionaires who made mistakes. So even they can make mistakes. Even they they were buying on the premise of hoping for capital appreciation because they thought Singapore will be like a playground for the rich, right? Playground for the rich. All the billionaires will come here and then they want to buy now, and they thought the property would double in price. They made a mistake. It didn't exactly double in price. Maybe the earlier adopters double in price, but later on it didn't. Okay, those who got in later and bought it more expensive didn't exactly double in price. So if you see here, Cosmopolitan, 11 million seller, lost 3 million on the deal. Crazy. And then Oceanfront Penthouse sold for 7.2 million, and Ching Chen for 9.33. So asking 12 million. So people are crazy. Like they're speculating, they're hoping, they're thinking that you can just buy now at 10 and then hopefully in 3 years' time you can sell at 15. So that's the mindset of a lot of savvy, rich people who buy properties in Sentosa Cove.
Okay, so I get the idea. But how do these people, but I think a lot of them probably, if we're talking about Sentosa Cove or some others, you were looking at what, Flame Tree or something like that. Okay, this is in profit, right? Okay, so if we're talking about these properties, when they buy in, probably a lot of the time they buy in direct from developer. So the developer sets the price. How would someone know if this is a price point where they can come in and possibly make money?
Okay,
Because
I'll be very honest and frank. I'm not exactly an expert in local markets, but from my understanding, when you buy property from the developer, the price, they have already priced in future appreciation of the property when they sell to you at that point in time. Okay, and that's my understanding. I don't know if it has changed. I stand corrected. And sometimes early adopters, early buyers who is in their inner circle might be able to buy them at a much lower rate. Okay. In Malaysia, I know our own field. What's that? We have someone there that we know, like Faizul Rizwan, who bought property en masse. They bought a lot. They buy a lot of all these properties in good properties, and they were able to negotiate the price down. Unfortunately, if you're just one guy trying to buy property from the developer, there's only so much discount you can get from the developer, and usually you're paying future value of the property right now, and that's not something that that I understand. I can wrap my head around. That's not something I like to do.
Yeah, because if that's exactly what's going on, we stand corrected. But if that's how it is being priced, then the problem is we can never really know what the future holds, right? So as much as we think that it's going to appreciate, everything's going to be rosy and naturally we talk about we talk about properties naturally should be appreciating, but I think there are these scenarios more like if you're saying like 46%. Were there any other places outside of Sentosa Cove where people made losses?
No, these are all outside Sentosa Cove. All this.
Okay. Where is this?
These are outside Sentosa. Flame Tree Park is at Sin Ming Avenue.
Okay. What happened at Flame Tree?
This was profitable. Helios Residence was, I think, is in it's at Cane Hill.
Cane Hill. Okay.
This was a loss-making property, Helios. The other one, Reflections. I stayed there before. Reflections. It's a beautiful place, Okay, but I'm surprised that it's not the only one that lost money. There were a lot of units in the reflection that lost money for some reason. I don't know why. I've not investigated deep enough, but it's proof in the pudding, right? That says if you buy properties at the point in time, this is the chronic problem that I had before I even wanted to enter into Singapore local property investment. It's tough. One, price is prohibitive. Second, it is very debt. It's very debt centric. You got to use a lot of debt to buy the property.
Yes.
And third, you are buying property at near to market value. And I'm exposing myself thinking property is a safe investment because it's a hard asset, but it's just losing money for me down the road because I overpaid for it now. And that's a problem.
Yeah, I think that's a major problem, right? Because I think I'm pretty sure some people who may be watching right now or the recorded version of this may have never ever realized this fact that buying properties, you get this actually risk in there, this type of risk in store, where you think that you buy in and you know you're going to be enjoying profits down the road. So of course people say it's a matter of timing, maybe 10 years 20 years down the road it's going to come up, but cases like this already show us that you know, I think reflections have been around for a while, so has Sentosa Cove, but I don't see sort of like a recovery in prices or maybe even appreciation.
Honestly, I'm not sure, especially right now with Singapore during the pandemic, the entire country is hurting, right? The entire country is going through recession, and we're already in recession now. And I'm sure the smarter ones will be able to enter and buy properties really cheap from the private market. But the other problem with buying property in Singapore is the stamp duty. So although I don't know how long the government will have the stamp duty in place, if the economy, they need to kickstart and jumpstart the economy, and the property market, they might loosen out the the stamp duty, which is ABSD, SSD, or whatever, and that will help to bring more overseas investors to come to Singapore. Recently, there's a lot of people from Hong Kong buying properties in Singapore locally because it is a match, because they were trying to run away from whatever's happening in Hong Kong. Okay, and Singapore is known as a very safe location, so you can still make money in Singapore from Singapore property. I don't doubt that. That's something that we should not discount Singapore. We can never ever discount our own country, right? I'm sure there will be a point in time where people can still make money from our own market here. Okay, they just have to find the right property. This was a 13 years period, 2% every year they lost. Was a 30 years period. He bought at 3.37, he sold at 2.66. I'm not so sure what was surrounding his circumstance when he sold the property at a loss. Okay, but at 3.37 million then when he bought it, okay, he was probably buying at a high. That was back in August 2007 in Singapore. We have not even it was just before the subprime crisis hit Singapore. That was at that point in time.
Okay, so I think maybe for this particular owner, probably is bad timing all around. Looks like.
He sold it right right when the pandemic hit Singapore, right?
Yeah, and he probably bought on a high before the subprime crisis kicked in, right?
Yep.
So
it's a bad time. 2.5 million sold on my birthday for 1.87. Wow. So it was another loss, 1% annualized. But so this is just showing some of the realities, right? And I read, there was one article before, billionaire who bought property in St. Regis, if I'm not mistaken. He lost money on that as well. So billionaires also make mistakes.
Right. Yeah. So now that we have established the fact that definitely there are so many, buying property is actually very dynamic. There's a lot of factors that you need to take into account. But what are some of the principles that you would probably want to tell people about that, you know, they should definitely look out for? What makes it probably like reduce this risk of potentially making such losses?
You're talking about local market?
Either way, what the principles behind it, local or maybe what do we have access to? Let's say because we do a lot of the US, right? So how does it differ?
Local market, I will not comment because I don't have experience in the local market, and it's something that I'll probably leave it to the local experts, right? Who probably have a better sense of how we should buy properties locally. the great thing about that is that it's right in your backyard. You're able to buy them. It's nearby. You can touch it. You can hug it. You can lick it. Whatever you want to do with it, you can do that.
Okay.
The disadvantage that I have whenever I speak to a lot of investors is the fact that we are halfway across the world, and right now, in a country like America, where they still have no idea how to get a good hold of controlling the pandemic, controlling COVID-19 outbreak. So it does sometimes people wonder, hey, if that's really happening, then you must be crazy to still think you want to buy properties back in all the way in the US. Okay. Now the thing about this about why I still do buy there is because we are able to buy them cheap. Now, and the abundance of all these cheap properties and relative to the property market, the real market value, and what we can pay for it when we buy it there, because it's totally governed by the free market. There's no stamp duty, there's no seller whatever duty, right? Okay, it's the free market control it 100%. So eventually, those who are very well versed with capitalistic ideas would be able to maximize and take advantage of it and hopefully profitize from it as much as possible, because they're in the know. Those who are have no idea how to really work the real estate market, how to be a capitalist in that kind of situation, then they will just stand on the sideline and see other people make their money, right? So for us, we are in the know, and we know exactly how and where to find these properties when we buy them cheap, buy them low, buy them at a good price, and in an area whereby there's jobs growth, and in an area whereby there population growth, there's still people moving in. And one thing for sure is that the abundance of these properties is a lot higher than local market.
And when you mentioned cheap, I just want to touch on cheap. So you mentioned cheap. What do you mean by cheap? Cheap in terms of price you're paying, or
30-40% of market value. That's just really cheap, right? 30-40% of value, 20% sometimes. You're lucky 5, but you're appreciating too much. 10 is we do have a couple of problems, but there's a caveat here. If you buy them really cheap, chances are you have to add some cash into rehabilitating the property, remodeling the property, or renovating the property. That's the caveat. That's something else that you have to take note of.
Okay, so buying discounted properties in the US is something that it's what I know Noble Sky does a lot of, and it's actually the core principle of all of our acquisitions, right? We won't encourage buying in like future value or even at market value, current market value, because that's where the dangers are. The earlier discussion that we just had about buying properties and paying a price where you actually do not know where it might go in the future, right? So I think it always makes sense, and I would agree with which is the very reason why I actually got involved in Noble Sky in the first place, joining the team and all, because I thought that whole idea of being able to buy a property at paying only 10% or 20% of the actual market value just makes so much sense. It's like it's the same principle with anything else. Yes, if you want to make money in anything else, to make the profit, you got to buy it cheaper, right? If you're going to sell a product to the market, same thing. You're going to buy from your supplier, manufacturer, everything cheaper, so that you can sell to the market more expensive. But if you don't even have this opportunity, it's like I buy from a supplier at $20 and I'm trying to sell the same product at $20, just and hoping that people will pay me 25 because of what I have no idea. It's like it's like speculation. So, and I think this core fundamental principle which we have about buying below market value is what is so interesting. And I just think most people can't wrap their head around this whole idea. It's like, how do you even get like 20%, pay 20%, like 100,000 property, you pay only 20,000 and that's it, right? You become a full owner. Most people don't think it's even possible. But when like you mentioned exactly, if you're in the know, and if you start to hear about this, and if you actually do your own research, you don't have to listen to Noble Sky. If you do your own research, you go to YouTube, we just go to Google and type about buying properties below market value in the US, and I think you're going to get a lot of information which tells you that this is so possible.
Correct. Afan, we actually have a question by Sally Sali. Apparently, he was
Yes.
asking my own friend.
Yeah.
Trying
Oh
to
yeah.
disturb me.
What's his question?
Oversupply of HDB flats. Do you see HDB prices can still go higher than current? So he was asking
Oh,
that.
can I
Well,
can I can I answer this first a bit for a bit?
wait, please. Maybe you answer that.
Yeah, actually, this came from my own experience. My first property which I bought was HDB resale, right? So at that point, it was a property in Sengkang, and I got it at 302 or something like that lah. I can remember after all the grants. So it was at one point where I was thinking about selling the property, and at the peak of the market, it was fetching market price around my area was fetching around 550,000. So 5550, which was a good pricing, right? So I was thinking like, oh, wow, this is good. But then again, this whole idea about more BTO projects coming out, and here we're talking about more supplies, right?
Yep.
And basically more access for people to start to buy properties. And then with all of the cooling measures came in, the prices dropped drastically. And by the time I was able to sell off my property, I was only able to sell it off at 430,000.
Oh, serious?
So
It was
yeah,
from how much to how much? For
so around
505.
550, 570. So
Wow.
the transactions at the time, there was like 1 year before I actually was finally able to sell my property. It went down all the way to 430 when I was actually able to sell it off. So I think it's not just, of course, about oversupply, but oversupply supply did come into that did play a part. But at the same time, of course, all of these other cooling measures. So I think as someone who's in the market to buy or sell in HDB properties, you really need to know your numbers. And if you think also about, because we use CPF heavily,
Yes.
there's actually, you go to CPF, you can actually do the CPF calculator and all that, because when you sell out the property, you need to return the money with accrued interest. So
Yeah.
you
That
think
was the-
you think yeah, you think you might be getting an additional maybe $20,000 in cash, but that whole amount might actually be going back to your CPF account. So
correct.
you got to think about that. Yeah.
So those who buy those who buy HDB property with cash will smile all the way to the bank when they sell it off
Mm.
eventually.
Yeah.
My mom
Yeah.
bought property HDB last time with cash. she
Nice.
she didn't have to worry about paying
Accrued
back
interest.
the accrued interest to CPF, so she get to keep
Yeah.
everything. Okay.
That was a wise move.
Well, maybe not. I'm not so sure. Depends on what you do with the money, of course. The thing is this: if there's an oversupply of HDB flat, HDB serve a very different segment. That's my opinion.
Mm.
They don't serve investors. You see. So, if you're entering to buy property for HDB, you're not exactly first thought in your head
Yeah.
is about I want to make it as an investment. It's not. I want to move away from my parents. I want to have my own place where I can run around naked. Something like that, right? In the house. Things like that. So you are looking at having your own nest, your own place, and you just want to be able to start your own family, and trying to find the most important thing about HDB was affordability. And usually, for first-time buyers of HDB property, the moment they feel they can afford, sometimes, okay, the more prudent one will buy something small, cheap, in all the way, I believe all the way in the west, something like that. Because considering west side property price is tend to be lower than the east side for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because SCF area is over there lah. So, but the east side is a bit different, a bit more pricey for some. Of course, we are not including the central region. But when those properties you can buy, you can afford, the more prudent one will always buy something as affordable as possible. Then there are some who just want to look at property, whereby they want to include their own family, like their own grandparents, their own parents, their kids, or their parents, themselves, and for their kids, 3 gen. So they look at different criteria of property. So that's why, in my opinion, whether property price for HDB can go down, it might. For resale market might drop. But for the buyer who's entering the property market for the first time, they're not exactly looking at investing. They're hoping for returns. Of course, when you want to sell, you want to upgrade. You want to hopefully be able to afford that upgrade. So that's why you're looking at your current, whether you can sell it at a good price. Then you will upgrade. But that is not exactly an investment decision, you see. So when you do that, that's an emotional, personal decision that you make based on what your current situation is. And when it comes to buying property for investment, you look at totally different criteria. So if I'm entering the HDB market for the first time, I'm not really bothered by whether this property can appreciate in value or not. I'm looking at how much I can afford.
Yeah, that's
Look at
partly
how much I
true.
can afford to buy the property,
Yeah.
right? And that's what will govern my thoughts. Okay, if I can afford, I can buy this. I can run away from living with my parents, something like that, and I can have my
Yeah,
own
I think
place.
I just want to highlight this what Fraser mentioned about HDB being for the masses and using HDB as an investment model, but might not give an accurate picture. And I think it's very true, very correct. Thanks, Fraser, for your comment. And I think true. But some people I think maybe have that idea still that buying even their first property HDB might be something that they are hoping for appreciation down the road.
I
Yeah.
would myself too. I mean, all of us would like that, right? If I buy
Yep.
something, as a seller, I'm always hoping my asset to be high in value. But then when you're
Mhm.
buying the property, you're hoping for the asset to be low in value.
Yeah. So,
Right?
but yeah, the other thing we mentioned about properties appreciating and the markets, even although we speak favorably about in the US, you have already mentioned places like New York or Manhattan or very very high or atas places, right, where it may be similar to Singapore, right? You might not know where the market's going to go, whether buying it at that point in time might be favorable. So we look into specific places, right? That's why we can get these areas at buying at lower values. But how about rental? Just because I think even in Singapore's context, it's to me to be able to be a landlord to rent out my own property. Firstly, in a HDB context, technically you're not supposed to be doing it, right? You're not supposed to be renting out your property if you are a HDB owner. So then your only opportunity then is probably when you have upgraded to uh, condo, private condo maybe, for example. Then you want to rent out, but then you can't afford to be owning two condominiums or one HDB, one condominium. I think that's not a very possible configuration or combination here in Singapore's context. So it's becomes a very expensive endeavor if you want to
Yes.
own two condos in the in Singapore and then hoping to rent out one, unless you really have deep pockets lah, a lot of money. So but which is why I think again going back to opportunities that we're talking about right now, to avoid making that loss. And then of course we want to look at that's the downside, and also we want to look at the upside. So we talk about invest where you buy properties, not only are we buying it low, but the opportunities for rental, I think it's always there. Do you
Yeah.
want to share a little bit about rental market in the US? So how
Okay.
do people in
So,
the US rent, or what
yes, they
what
do.
is it like? Yeah.
Yes, they do. In fact, majority of them are not renting. It's like 50% of the market now in America are just renters. They have a very different mindset. Especially when the kid turns 18, even though if it's a girl. I mean, I wouldn't never imagine kicking my daughter out of my house, 18 years old. But for them, they do that. They say once you're 18, please go and find your own place to stay. You need to live and be independent. Good and
Uh-huh.
bad. Okay, Asians are a bit different in the way we approach things. But over there, they rent, so they find rooms to rent. They become independent, and a lot of them but at the same time, because millennials who enter the workforce with a lot of debt, from
Right.
credit card, student loans. So they're just unqualified borrowers. They cannot be qualified borrower. It will take them a while to clear the credit to be able to qualify for a loan.
Right. So
And
they start out as renters.
yeah, they will start out as renters first. And some banks are tightening their loan process, so they're making things more difficult for first time home buyers to buy property.
Mm.
For homeowners. However, the I think I mentioned this several times in my own life, and I did all this while.
Mhm.
There's a bit of a struggle in the US. I mean, banks are tightening the loan process, but at the same time, there is a big demand of mortgage-backed security, whereby the bank just want more homeowners to come and take their loan. It's like a
Mhm.
struggle. Okay, then they're trying to clamor for the qualified pool of the small qualified pool of buyers that they can sell to. Okay, but the millennials are being frozen out of the home ownership home ownership industry, so they just cannot buy property. So it's becoming a bit of a struggle in the US. I see different
Right.
data showing me different things, but in fact, if you want to be able to be a landlord in America, it's very much possible because people there are renting properties first. They will rent the
Yeah.
property from you, okay, and the yields is a lot higher than back home and right here in Singapore. And you buy this property a lot more affordably, okay, a lot more affordable than what you can get back here in Singapore, and the yields are like 3, 4 times, 5 times better than what you can get here.
You
So
mentioned Rauf, you mentioned affordable. What numbers are we talking about?
yeah,
Rental property.
if you're looking at if you're able to afford paying $150,000 just on stamp duty, and I haven't even include
Oh
paying
my god.
paying for the down payment, right, of 400,000. If you can afford to do that, you can buy like 20 of these properties with the same cash that you have to
Wait,
fork out in your own pocket.
do you
20,
just say do you just say 20?
yeah, 20 about 20 of these properties cash.
Okay.
You own them outright, okay, and they will cash flow for you at least 4 or 5 times more than back home in Singapore. And 1 year later, you cash out everything from the bank and you do a cash out refinance, you buy more, you double the number. So these are some of the things that Singaporeans just don't realize. You see,
Yeah.
they're
Okay.
cash rich, but they deploy their funds into locally into assets that and they pay extra to the government stamp duty. You're not exactly you have to wait at least 10 years, I think, for some calculation I saw, right? About 10 years before you can see appreciation hitting the point of you paying the stamp duty extra. The property price is much, and then this stamp duty, right? It might take sometimes 10 years before your property will appreciate to the price
To
point that you
break
pay.
to break even on the stamp duty.
Yeah, so some of
Right.
these things in Singaporeans pay, it is very emotionally driven, and when they don't exactly look at data when they buy, and look at
Yeah.
some of these um, showrooms, and these are people who are generally a bit more elderly. They buy because of a very sexy agent selling to them, very sexy voice, very charming agent who's able to charm their pants. Okay, I'm not trying to discredit the realtors or whatsoever here, but if they take a second look at what they can potentially buy, they can make a lot better returns in another country.
Yeah, I get it. Because I think in investment context, we're always looking at returns. It's not just about, of course, investment property is not just about an emotional buy because you're not going to be staying there yourself. It's more about what kind of returns you're going to get, and
Yep.
and I think that is where uh, becoming very calculative in terms of putting where you put your money in and the to optimize your returns makes a lot more sense. So
Mhm.
I think that's what we're actually trying to drill to people every time they ask about real estate and where should they put money, whether the US makes sense. I mean, we're not just talking about the US. If the numbers checks out anywhere else, go ahead and do it. It's just that I think the ease of acquiring properties in the US is just incredibly easy. In fact, I would say it's too easy. It's like it's too easy that it should be made. We
Become
shouldn't we shouldn't be telling people. It's like a secret we should guard for ourselves. But I think it's just to be fair to just sharing the good news out there. That's something that we have stumbled upon, and it's systems that we have at our end helping
yeah.
people to actually acquire these properties. I mean, when I first heard about when I got involved, right, I was an investor first, and I realized like, oh my god, you guys are gonna get me set up in like 48 hours, and I'll be done and up ready to acquire properties in the US. That just doesn't make sense. But I've seen it, and we have done it for a number of a good number of the clients that we have in hand. And I think if you're really in the market looking for investment properties, then the US makes it so much easier. So even if if the numbers checks out in another country versus the one in the US, but then here we talk about ease of acquisition, ease of fund flow of funds. Even I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
And
Correct.
yeah. So basically, this is the part where because I'm head of marketing in Noble Sky, so I'm gonna sell a little. I'm gonna market a little bit about what we do, for sure. Yeah. So
Yes.
what we do is basically we help people to get themselves into buying properties in the US. It's as simple as that. No, we don't have properties to sell to you. Noble Sky doesn't sell any properties. We don't hold inventories per se to sell to you, and we are not realtors. What we do is we provide a full service, And if you do speak to Noble Sky, anyone of the team, just drop us a message in this comment. If you're hearing this and you have questions, just drop us a message, because we will explain to you the concepts and the ideas behind, the principles behind it, the legal principles behind it, in fact, that makes it possible for you to actually get set up so quickly and legally to buy properties there. Yeah, and I think that's the essence of what we do now. We want to make it as easy as possible for people to buy into properties.
Seamless, easy, and passive.
Yeah, and so the concerns about distance and everything like that, actually, once you know that you are vested, you're properly set up over there in the US, and that you are legally set up, I think it will set your heart at ease. You'll realize that this is real, this tangible, that you actually have a legal setup in the US, and you can actually start to, if you have money right now, let's say you're in the market to buy a property for investments, then definitely you can look at the US, and I think it makes sense. Yeah, more information is not going to hurt you. You can definitely get more information from us. We're not going to charge you for information, for sure. Just just look it up.
Okay. So let me just drop a link. If people are just keen on, was that keen on just trying to find out where the
yes.
They just want to arrange a time with us. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. This link. All right. If anyone's interested to just arrange a private appointment with any of my team members, just go ahead and click on the link. Okay, here bit.ly/NSI, and we'll be more than happy to arrange a time to see whether we can discuss with you on what you intend to do for yourself. And I'm someone, if I'm the one on the call with you, I would always advise you based on what's best for you. And if you're telling me things like, because you're hoping to upgrade into a nice house for yourself, you've been working very hard, I would tell you, please stop looking at anywhere else. Just do that in Singapore. Get yourself a nice condo in the middle of Sentosa, if you can afford it. Go ahead, knock yourself silly and make yourself, because you work hard, right? At some point in time, you need to play. You can't be working so hard and then cram yourself in a one bedroom, one hall with 6 kids. It's not going to work out. So you need that space. You need that a bit of luxury so that you taste a bit of the fruits of your labor, and it's just being human. Okay. And I believe that very much. So sometimes we do have people who wants to come on board and we actually decline. And I think we tell them that we don't think it's actually suitable for them at that point in time because of the circumstance surrounding their situation. So things like this. So it is a non-obligatory, no obligation at all with working with us. It's just an appointment. Talk to us, and we'll see how we can work something out for you if this is something that you see yourself doing.
Nice. So basically, this link, if you see here, I think I'm not sure if they're gonna see what I see. This is right under my chin. So the link is right under my chin. It's a scheduler, right? So one of our basically consultants from the website is gonna be able to speak to you and listen to what you want in terms of doing a real estate investment. You see what you need, and then we can advise accordingly. And I think this is a direction which I think we will be headed more towards, because I think a lot of people get misinformed about investing in real estate, and I think in our profession here, we've heard so many people who got into making the wrong choices. Even those who have come to us, right, quite a number of them, Rauf, who bought properties in the US and they actually got the whole idea wrong.
Yep,
right?
Correct.
Yeah. So it's not just about buying in the US; it's about buying the right ones that meets the right criteria, and I think that's where you really want to have this information before you make some kind of decision, and that's what we do.
Correct. Yep. So go ahead if you want. Just click on the link. Arrange one appointment with any of my team members, and we'll be more than happy to speak with you.
Right. Okay. Right. So
we've overextended.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, it's been fun, but I think we've established tonight that buying properties is not always money making. There are circumstances where you can actually make losses, and no one in this world can actually guarantee anything, but there's always a set of criteria and best practices that we can put in place and for you to understand and not buy, especially when it comes to buying a property for investments. You don't want it to be an emotional buy, and I think that's how we always set things out for our clients. Yeah. Okay, so any last words, Rauf?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I hope everyone have a nice evening and a great start to the week. And I think Hari Raya Haji is right around the corner.
Oh yeah, this Friday. Yeah, just a simple advice for everyone: prepare umbrella. Prepare umbrella if you're going out. We've been caught in the rain today. Yeah,
nice.
Literally. Yeah, so it was really fun. Okay, so that's it for me. Nothing else. I hope you've enjoyed the session tonight with myself and Rauf. So if there's anything else, just reach out to us. Rauf, anything else from you?
That's all. Take care, guys.
All right.
Cheers.
So good night, everyone. Goodbye.